Tim. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, brother. How are you?
You know, it's only like 2 more weeks until Memorial Day, brother, and we're going to mark our 6th anniversary of doing this show. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do what we normally do and have the regular people call in, but maybe we can work on something. But if not, it's still going to be our 6th anniversary. So
Memorial Day, that means people are going to be going to the beach, right?
Of course. You know, they're all going, and they'll be 6 feet apart. And
postpone that till Labor Day.
Yeah, Tim and I were in Costco yesterday in Rego Park, and you know, I hate to say it. I mean, everyone's all over the place. You know, people are standing in the middle of the aisle like, "Oh, gee, should I buy this or not?" And you have to walk by them. You can't wait. You can't wait 6 feet behind them. And but we were wearing our masks, so
had the mask going. Did our best to do the social distancing.
Yeah, but you know what bothers me, brother? It's the idiots who wear the mask under their nose. You know, part of it is supposed to be over
under their
nose.
chin,
or under their chin, like that's giving off the germs. So I was just like, oh, come on, Pete. I didn't say anything to anyone. It's the only person I said someone was refilling their bottle at the soda machine, and they're not supposed to be refilling their bottle because they didn't pay for it, and they were just sneaking it in. You're supposed to get a second cup. That's the way it works over there. And I just said, hey, guy, you're not supposed to be doing that. And he didn't say anything.
He completely ignored you, brother.
Yeah, well, yeah. What can you do? Anyway, brother, let's start off with Major League Baseball. Out of all the leagues that have suspended their seasons, they're the only ones you hear with actual plans to come back. You don't hear anything about the NHL. You don't hear anything about MLS. You don't hear anything about NBA. And I'm wondering if they're even trying, first of all. And second of all, MLB's got a lot of hurdles to get through before they figure out how they're going to bring back the league for this season. It's a lot of things. They have to get – well, first of all, they have to decide how many games to play. That's the first thing.
Right.
Second of all, they have to also figure out how they're going to do the travel. It seems like they might have them play – individual divisions against each other for the most part, which is not a bad thing. So you wouldn't see like the Mets playing the Giants, let's say, or the Padres, but you'd see them play, you know, the Braves a lot or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, basically what's going on right now, and the reason that you don't hear a whole lot about hockey or basketball at this point is because they only have a few games to play, and then they have a playoff, and I think, and this is just my own opinion, but I think that both of those leagues would be more willing to punt on their playoffs and just say, you know what, this thing is going to be going through the summer, and if we finish the season and then go to playoffs, then our players aren't going to have an off season, because they're going to have to start up again a couple weeks later. And do we really want to do that? Or can we just focus on, starting up our season and kind of returning to normal? And, you know, I mean, even the NHL and the NBA, whose seasons don't really start until October, they don't know if those seasons are going to be able to start on time. We still don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that by then too many people will be all that comfortable with group settings, and you know, will the NBA and the NHL have to start new seasons with no fans in the stands? And at what point will we be able to have fans and to have groups gather and not have to worry about 6 feet apart and all of that? So I think that's a very real concern.
Right. So, brother, by the way, just 1 second.
Yeah.
If anyone would like to call in, talk sports or anything else, 516-387-0120. That's 516-387-0120. That is not our normal line. So if you remember our normal line, that's a whole other thing. We're not using that right now. We're using 516-387-0120. Okay, continue, brother.
So like I was saying, that you know, at what point will people feel comfortable sitting next to a stranger? and sharing an armrest, and I mean, you can say that for sports just the same as you can say it for getting on a plane, and we don't know what when that will be. I mean, it probably will take a vaccine before people will say, all right, yeah, I'll get a vaccine. I'll go, to go about my normal business, and then I can feel safe, and that I'm not going to get sick and potentially die. So I think that's a big part of what we're looking at as far as the NBA and the NHL. I think they're looking at a two-pronged plan. And like I said, one of them would involve finishing the regular season, and then having some manner of playoffs. I don't think the playoffs would be as big as it usually is. I think what they might do is potentially look at the season and say, all right, instead of going 8 teams from each conference, we're going to go 4 teams from each conference, cut the playoffs in half, and just have our best of the best and do it that way. Well,
with the NHL, the problem with that is a lot of the teams make their money for the playoffs.
I know,
that's the gravy time,
Again, it's going. I mean, the NHL has talked about putting all the teams in the playoffs, but if they do that, they won't be finishing the regular season. They'll just take the season as it is now and say, all right, you know what, big tournament, everybody's in, and let's see what happens.
I agree with that.
And that's fine. If that's what they want to do, they still have about 15 games left. So you're talking, a couple of playoff series there. So why not do it that way? Make it so that every game counts.
I sort of like that idea, with one and out maybe, or do you do 2 out of 3? That's the thing. NHL has always been 4 out of 7. There was a time it was 2 out of 3, and then 3 out of 5, and then the finals were 4 out of 7. But
I think for those early round games, I would do 3 out of 5. I mean, 2 out of 3 is just too much of a crapshoot. Unless that's what they want. Unless they want the crapshoot.
The problem. I'm sorry, brother.
Well, I was going to say, if you want the crapshoot, and which it would seem the NHL does, because if they're going to put every team in the playoffs, then that is a crapshoot. So, who's to say that like a team like the Devils doesn't win 2 out of 3 against, I don't even know who they would play, but whoever it is.
Right.
So it's kind of a strange way to go about it, and say that, all right, hey, our worst team could beat our best team.
Yeah, and that'd make it interesting at least. It's like in '99 when they had the shortened season for the NBA, and the Knicks were team number 8, and they ended up winning the Eastern Division. So they end up against the Spurs and lost, but at least they won when they shouldn't have. It was actually a pretty good team. Right.
It was and it was like last season with Tampa Bay when they were this force in the regular season. And then they just folded up and died in the playoffs.
Right.
So, I mean, crazy stuff happens in the playoffs, and the NHL is going to invite even more crazy than usual if they do go ahead with this plan. But again, I think what the NHL does by saying we're just going to put everybody in the playoffs is they buy themselves some time, because they can always change that. They can always say, you know what, we don't have enough time to do this, so the plan to put everybody in the playoffs, we're scrapping that. And we're going to go with, whether it's 16 teams or even fewer. If you want to give, division winners a bye and work it that way, and have teams, compete to play against those teams. I don't know how they would wind up doing it, but again, it buys them time, and I don't know that the NBA is, as determined to try to finish its regular season, and obviously they have a television contract that's more lucrative, and their product is more in demand than the NHL. But excuse me, brother. But at some point, the NBA is going to have to decide how much time do we have, because you have to give players time off in between seasons. That's just. Otherwise, it's just going to feel like one big long coronavirus season. And you don't want that. You want some separation. You want a new season, and you want to make sure that there's no second wave, and that doesn't become an issue. So I mean, all the predictions are that that's going to happen sometime in October, November.
Right. So that would screw it up again. And one thing about this whole Corona thing, you know when it really kicked off is when the leagues decided they didn't want to play with this virus where their fans might get sick from sitting next to each other or their players. And really, they're the ones who pushed everything into lockdown almost, because they're the ones who said, we're going to wait a while. And everyone else then copied them afterwards. You know, they're the ones who stepped up and said, you know what, we're not sure of this. You know, it would be nice if someone else would give us advice, but and they all ended up closing their leagues down. I don't think they expected it to go to May. And I think if they had known, maybe they wouldn't have closed down right away. But, you know,
they probably would have tried to squeeze out a couple more games. Because I think when all of this happened, like you said, I think that the owners were expecting this to last maybe a couple of weeks, and that was it.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, there's a famous video shot of Mark Cuban looking at his phone, and I assume he had just gotten a text or maybe some sort of news alert that said, you know, NBA suspends season, and Mark Cuban is sitting in his seat at a Dallas Mavericks game and just utterly recoiled. Because he was so shocked. He was just, oh my God, we just suspended. Like, have you seen this? And he's showing his phone to people, and nobody knew.
Right.
So I'm not sure how this happened without an owner of a franchise actually knowing what was going on. But Adam Silver just, all right, you know what? We're done. We're not doing this anymore. We're not going to put our fans in jeopardy. We're not going to put our players in jeopardy. And this was at the point where Rudy Gobert and you know, had just tested positive, and all of a sudden people started to realize, hey, this is dangerous, and we need to do something about limiting this. I wonder if they hadn't suspended the season but suspended fans from going to the games, if they would have continued it, and then, you know, by now it's May, you would have the playoffs mostly done and the season mostly done. So whoa, that's a mighty big assumption, brother.
Well, I'm just saying if they'd continued without actually having fans, which is
but what about
talk of a lot of these leagues
players
right now.
got sick, so you know, I mean,
right.
You're totally discounting that.
Well, I'm just saying
four Nets had the coronavirus,
right?
So and Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz also had it, and I think another one of their teammates had. So you're talking about you know, decent chunks of teams that had this thing and had to be quarantined. So how are you going to, you know, what are you going to do? Just tell the Utah Jazz, sorry, your two best players?
Well, once players started to get it, it would be different. They didn't know about the players when they closed the season down.
Well, Rudy Gobert was like a day later, because he was, you remember, he was the idiot that touched all the reporters' microphones and probably gave it to 10 reporters.
Well, probably.
You know, fortunately, there's not that many people covering the Utah Jazz, but you know, I mean, he touched every recording device that was on the table when he was being interviewed. He touched.
Right. Well,
horrible.
Also, brother, so with getting back to the Major League Baseball, there's you know, they have to figure out, will they have fans there? They also have to, I don't think they will. Or maybe you have, you know, alternate rows or something. I don't know.
Right now, the plan for baseball, and the reason that baseball has so many plans, like I said, they are preparing for an entire season, and this you know, the coronavirus is so unpredictable at this point, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how fast we might have a vaccine. There's every stuff about this illness changes every day, and accordingly, the plans change almost every day.
Right.
So right now, and this was first reported by Ken Rosenthal in The Athletic. I'll give him credit, because he's one of the best baseball guys in the country. The commissioner's office is supposed to have a conference call with representatives from all 30 teams today. I say representatives because I assume some might be general managers, some might be owners, just people from the teams. So if that goes well, and the owners or the representatives from the teams, if they all come to an agreement on, all right, this is what we want to do. But everything that they are going to be talking about in that phone call today it's best case scenario.
Right.
So this is what they want to do and what they think they'll be able to do. But, again, the coronavirus will determine that.
Right,
and,
but
and governments will determine.
I know that, brother. But one thing about this, though, at least a league is actually stepping up and saying, "Okay, we have this idea of maybe how we can do this," because we haven't heard anything. We heard stuff about they were going to play in 3 stadiums in the Arizona, and they would have no fans there, and it would just be in Arizona, and who cares? Like it was minor league baseball or something.
Right.
So at least they're saying we want to try this. Now, there's a couple of things they have to do also, brother. They have to get the players to go along with this. They haven't even talked to them yet.
Well, that's Tuesday's phone call. That's what I was saying. First of all, you have to get 30 teams to agree on something today.
Right. All teams have to agree. We know.
This call could last for hours. All right.
That's true.
Then after you get 30 teams on board and saying, all right, this is the plan we've come up with. This is how we want to handle things. Now you got to go to the players,
right?
And let's face it. One of the big issues that's going to be on the table with the players is they need to reduce salaries and significantly because
we're talking 50%.
Yeah, we're talking about a season that's going to be no more than 82 games. So you're talking half a season,
right?
Now, the players are coming back at the owners and saying, well, hey, we had this conversation more than a month ago, and we agreed to do a prorated portion of salaries. And the owners are saying, well, back then when we said prorated portion of salaries, we didn't know we might have to go an entire season with no fans. Now, no fans means no ticket sales. It means no concessions, so no $14 beers at Yankee Stadium. It means no parking. It means no revenue from luxury boxes. I mean, this is I rarely ever side with owners because they're for the most part all billionaires, and I'm not gonna cry if they don't make every last dime that they can. But this is a major financial hit. And you can talk all you want about TV money and how significant it is, but without 81 games with fans in the stadium, I mean you're talking in the neighborhood of 3 million fans for the Yankees. Probably a little bit less for the Mets. Just I'm going up by ballpark capacity. It is smaller. So you're looking at a situation where players are going to have. Let's put it this way: as much as people want to see baseball, what a shame it would be if the players and the owners can't get on the same page about who who's getting paid what. That would just be the worst. I can't even call it a solution. I'll call it the worst scenario that could happen if these dummies on both sides can't understand that, hey, we need to play. We because if we play, then there'll be some sort of normalcy back in the country. It's almost to a certain extent like after 9/11 when we finally got back on the baseball field and it is a way to have the people in this country feel like, all right, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well,
and as long as I'm going to be sitting inside all day, at least I can watch baseball.
If there's like the first 2 weeks, and let's say the numbers have gone down for the coronavirus, maybe they allow some people to sit in some of these, maybe a section or half the stadium or something, because you can't have the whole stadium, randomly people sitting places because you need ushers and you need everything else. So.
And that's all part of the problem. It's not so easy as just open up the stadium because remember the players won't be in the dugouts. That was part of the plan. Is that the players are going to be sitting in the stands because they need to be spread apart, so they're not going to be shoulder to shoulder in the dugout.
Well, that's going to be tough, but I'm not sure. One thing that the other thing that the owners have to worry about is. Not every owner owns their stadium. The Mets and the Yankees do. Other places do too. but there's some stadiums that are public places, and you can't just say to the public place, "Oh, we need the stadium, but we're not going to pay you." Oh, yeah. City Field can say, "Well, the Mets own it, so we're just going to not charge the Mets because we are the Mets." But
let's put it this way:
I don't know the public ownership of parks and or stadiums in the Major League Baseball, but not and the same with the other leagues too. That's something they have to think about. The Garden, Madison Square Garden, they own the Knicks and the Rangers, so they could not pay themselves for renting the room because that's the teams pay. It's one pocket to another. They say, okay, here's rental fee to use the Garden, and I put it in my other pocket. So
yeah,
but other places don't have that.
I know, but you're talking about a silly scenario there with the Garden. I mean,
but think about.
So what if one pocket doesn't get it from the other one? The pockets are still full.
Yeah, but it's but let's look at like all the games that were supposed to be at the Coliseum. The Islanders don't own the Coliseum. So
look, here's the main.
Someone would have to say we're not going to take a payment to use the Coliseum. And that's something to think about too.
Yes, but here's the main issue you need to worry about. First of all, with baseball, I can't even imagine that the number of publicly owned stadiums you could count on one hand. I don't even think it's that many, because I'm pretty sure just about every team owns its stadium.
I'm not sure of that, brother. Kansas City. I'm not sure of ownership there. Pittsburgh,
I'm pretty sure all of them do.
The Braves.
I have to double check.
Braves don't own this stadium.
Well, I mean, it's all been built with taxpayer money, but
right.
It's also built with some of the team money. The cities are just giving these parks away to the state to the.
Oh, I know the Braves were. The Braves they got that suburban stadium, and they got such a great deal they had to take it. That was the thing they said.
Exactly. So the issue that I think that you're dealing with more so than that, because let's face it, if it was a situation like that, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I really think it's insignificant. But if there was,
no, it's not, brother. It's not insignificant.
It is because it's an insignificant number of stadiums.
If 14, hold it, Timmy. If 4 teams, let's say the Oakland A's don't own their own stadium, but so let's say 4 teams say, well, we're not doing it. Screw it.
But this is what I keep saying every week, is that it only takes one team for this entire house of cards and this plan to fall apart.
Well, now look for it to fall apart.
To just address your concern, brother, because I know it's all of a sudden like the most important thing in your life.
It's not. I'm just
They would renegotiate the deal. It would get renegotiated. Because obviously they're not going to have a 162-game season. Obviously, if they're not going to have any fans, that means that they're not going to have to hire ushers. The security would be very limited. So everything about it would be reduced, just like they're having the conversation with the players as far as reducing their salary. It would be the same thing for any publicly owned stadium out there, assuming there actually are some or more than a couple. But if for whatever reason, any public utility or any public entity said, you know what, we don't want you playing ball. Well, you know what? Then that means they got to. Because actually, there was one case with Toronto. That's an issue because Canada wants anybody coming into their country to self-quarantine for 14 days. Well, how are you going to do that and have a Major League Baseball season?
You can't.
So the talk is that the Toronto Blue Jays would play their games down in Dunedin, Florida, because that's where their spring training complex is. So that's the solution. There would be no games. If
I was Toronto, I would go to Buffalo. I would go to the Buffalo Bison Stadium and play there.
But they don't own it. They own the spring training facility, so that's where they would go.
But part of the deal with Major League Baseball is they want to keep it in the division. If you have to travel down south, part of the reason they want to keep it locally, so to speak, is so that the Yankees don't have to travel to Oakland, or the Mets don't have to travel to Seattle or whatever.
I got news for you. The flight to Toronto isn't that much shorter than the flight to Florida.
Well,
It really is. It's 45-minute difference or so. It really isn't a big deal either way. But they want to keep the teams in the same time zone. They don't want teams flying across the country. That's
understandable.
That's what they want to try and do. I'm still not 100% sure how they're going to manage that, especially like with a team like the Colorado Rockies, and how you're going to there's not a huge number of teams. First of all, I think the Rockies might be the only Mountain Time Zone team in the major leagues, but there's plenty of Eastern Time Zone, and there's plenty of Central.
Isn't Arizona? Isn't
they might be. Arizona's weird. I don't think Arizona does daylight savings time. So I think half the year they're West and half the year they're Mountain or something.
Okay, because like I said, I wonder if, let's say 4 teams say, well, we're not doing it, that the Major League Baseball would say, okay, sit out the season.
No, won't happen.
Just don't take any cuts.
That's why, like I said, there's going to be a massive. This meeting today is going to take a long time.
Well,
because there's a lot of issues that need to be discussed. There's a lot of issues that need to be hammered out, and everybody has to be on the same page. So the commissioner's office isn't taking anything to the players until they have 30 teams in agreement, and they've addressed all of the topics and all of the potential pitfalls. Because going to the players, that just represents it's the biggest pitfall of all. What if a player decides he doesn't want to play this year? What if they I don't think they're going to do this whole thing like they were talking about a few weeks ago or a month ago about self-quarantining the players and just having them go from the ballpark to the hotel. And we talked about it several weeks ago, where Mike Trout is about a month or so or 2 months away from having his first child.
Right.
And now you're telling Mike Trout, well, because of all this, you're not going to be able to see your first child for 3 months until after he's born.
Well, if he's in the hospital, I mean, they're not going to let him near the hospital.
Well, but the point being that assuming that the child is born healthy, the mother is healthy, then she's going to be out of the hospital in a couple of days.
Right, and then
and then going home. So then now you're telling Mike Trout, well, hey, we can't let you go see your wife and your kid because you got to stay quarantined, so we can guarantee everybody's going to stay healthy.
Well, a lot of people live, have husband and wives, husbands and wives, brother, living together, and so I don't know what the deal with the outbreak is with them or family members, and we have friends who are husband and wife living together. And they're sharing the same room and everything else. So
that's the way it usually happens.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, I'm not sure you're going to. What I'm saying is you're not going to quarantine yourself unless, I know who's been doing that? Nurses and doctors, because they're afraid that they might give their family members the coronavirus because they're near it every waking moment.
Yeah, but the point being, you can catch this thing anywhere.
Yeah, I know that.
You don't know when you don't have to be. You don't even need to know that you're next. That you're next to a sick person, because a lot of times people don't show symptoms, or other times people are stupid enough to go outside when they have it.
Well, I mean, you can probably get inside your house too. And I've been staying in all week. I know you've been staying in all week, except for me for Fridays and Sundays. But at the same time, there's so many questions. I think what's going to happen is they're going to start doing it and see what happens, and then they make an agreement.
They can't do that.
Well,
they can't do that because the worst thing that they could do.
Then you're not going to have a season, brother. It's
a very real possibility.
It is a real possibility.
I keep trying to brace people for this, and people are telling me I'm the voice of doom. But I have been telling everybody on this show for the last 6 weeks that.
Which is me.
Be very prepared for the summer to be gone.
It already is. And
if the summer is gone, that means baseball season is gone.
Yeah, I know that, brother, and so does every other season. I mean,
it's reality. It's a very real possibility.
At the same time, you're not going to get it down to zero and then say, okay, we're going to go out, because that's not what they're going to do either, and you know that, unfortunately. So.
Well, the other situation that you need to think about with especially with baseball returning, is the government's. And is Cuomo going to sign off on this? Because right now,
I don't know.
Right now, Cuomo is being very cautious, and rightfully so. New York obviously has been hit by this thing way worse than any other state in the union. So is Cuomo going to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to let the Yankees and the Mets play," while everybody else is not able to go back to work because we're still leading the country in cases and deaths? I find that to be a very hard sell.
I agree too, brother.
But does that mean that the Yankees and the Mets wind up playing in Tampa and what's the name?
Port St. Lucie.
Port St. Lucie. Do they go down there? That's a possibility also. There are so many things on the table. And when you talk about, baseball's making a plan, baseball's scrambling. They're not making plans.
No, they are making plans.
They're making plans, but they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to see which combination of all of these possibilities will be the one that everybody can agree on, and it has a chance at working. And then they're going to try and see what they can do about getting players back to spring training or back to wherever those sites may be, assuming mostly Florida and Arizona, but they might do them at home ballparks instead of schlepping players all over the country and flying them down to Arizona and then flying them back to Chicago or Milwaukee or whatever. Just hey, Wrigley Field, we got grass, we got fences. Yeah, we can practice here.
Well, they might practice at Citi Field. They might practice Yankee Stadium.
It's all anything is on the table right now.
Well, we should say also the MLB people have decided their draft will not be 40 rounds; it'll be 5 rounds this year.
Yes, brother, you heard that correctly. 5 rounds. Major League Baseball is eliminating 35 rounds of draft.
Right.
That's horrifying.
It isn't. It isn't.
It's horrifying.
It just allows players to sign with who they want. That's all.
Yeah, for $20,000.
That's true.
You know what a 6th round pick gets in a normal year?
I have no idea.
More than $200,000.
Okay, well,
this was a very much a cost cutting move by Major League Baseball to try to recoup some of the money that they're going to lose.
It could be partly, brother. Also, they talked about before all this madness happened. They talked about reducing minor league baseball.
Right.
And this is maybe a better way to do it because your costs of all these high picks, so to speak, don't exist anymore. So if you pay $20,000 or maybe, the Players Association raises the rate on it, it's their way of investing cheaply in the future without having to pay all this extra money for the top picks.
The top players will get those bonuses. They're going to reduce the draft slots numbers. So whoever does get drafted this year will not be, it won't be the kind of money that players have gotten in recent years.
Right.
But to tell a college kid or even a high school kid, if he's not drafted in the first 5 rounds, all right, it's $20,000. That's it. Take it or leave it.
Well, maybe the players stay in college a little longer.
Well, I hate to say it, brother, but some of these kids are dumb and they're not going to college. So
that's true. I'm not saying otherwise. Good point.
That's an issue right there. My biggest problem with this, and it's not necessarily a problem because I'm a Yankees fan, but I think teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and maybe the Red Sox, I think those teams will have their choice. They will be, picking and choosing among the amateur talent who hey, I want to be a Yankee.
Right.
Or hey, look at the Dodgers. Look at the club they have. They're gonna be great for the next 10 years. I want to be part of that. That's what I think we could wind up dealing with.
But brother, the part of the other problem is let's say the Yankees or the Mets or whoever has all stars at every position. and you're signing in, there's a good chance you won't even make the team forever because those players might not leave for a long time, and you want to get up to the major league. So it's not just that you have a great all-star team. You have to have – it's like it reminds me something about the New York Yankees. There's always been said, the Yankees have the greatest farm system out there. And,
not really.
Well, they at one point they did. And what
a few years ago, they graduated a lot of talent. Right now, it's probably, I don't know. MLB.com did a ranking. I think they had the Yankees like 22nd or something. They've fallen. But
what I'm saying is that the Yankees used to trade away a lot of these prospects to get other players, and what happens is if no one leaves the main team, you can't have someone come up, no matter how good they are, to replace them because they're still getting good. What's production? Yes, thank you.
No problem.
From who's ever playing first base or second base or whatever. So, it works for a while. I agree. And who wouldn't want to sign with the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Mets?
Well,
but you also have to see how many players. If it's a crappy team, there's a better chance you're going to get called up than if it's a good team.
Well, let's put it this way: I would expect teams like Tampa Bay especially. But Kansas City, Pittsburgh, the Marlins, I would expect those teams and more to be especially aggressive with the players who don't get drafted.
Right.
Because those teams, they're the ones who kind of shun the high bonuses, and they're willing to take a player in the first round. Let's say the Kansas City Royals had the fourth pick or whatever. I forget where they are in this year's draft, but it's high. But let's say they have a top 5 pick, but they don't want to pay a $6 million bonus. And so they'll find a player who maybe is a little bit below the top 5 talent wise, and they'll just make calls to like maybe the top 15 or 20 players. And basically it's almost like, hey, we want to only pay a $4 million bonus, signing bonus. Will you take that?
Right.
And the first player that says yes, that's the guy they pick. So it's a little bit of a reach because, they're getting a guy that probably would have gone midway or later in the first round, but the number is what they're looking for. And, the Royals they drafted a pitcher, I want to say about 4 years ago, came in with all kinds of, I can't remember his name, but he came in with all kinds of fanfare and hype and everything like that. A kid was supposed to be, the next great Royals pitcher. He was a total bust. So they wasted like whatever it was, $5-6 million on a bonus for a kid that never got above AA.
Right. Well, it reminds me of Brian Taylor. Remember that great article you wrote for Newsday a long time ago when he was still in AA up in Albany, and he was moving well up the ladder, so to speak. And
his last great season.
He had a great season, and he was pitching really well. He got a huge bonus to sign. The Yankees didn't want to pay it. What happened?
$5 million.
Right. So then what happened? Boom. He got a fight in a bar. He screwed up his shoulder and was never the same.
Exactly. But so, that is something that that's. Let's put it this way: if Taylor hadn't shown poor judgment, he likely would have been a star.
I agree.
That's how good he was.
Right.
The only thing that was an issue with him that year in Albany, it was the Albany Colony Yankees. The only issue that he had that year was that he walked more batters than people were comfortable with. But I think what a lot of people didn't realize was he worked on a curveball most of the season.
Right.
My biggest problem with Brian Taylor was that he was throwing too many pitches. And he didn't work very quickly, which sports writers hate that. But his biggest issue was he was trying to develop a curveball because basically when he came out of high school, he was a 2-pitch pitcher. He was fastball slider, and the Yankees wanted him to have a third pitch because in high school he dominated people. I think he gave up 1 run in 80 innings or whatever it was in high school. And he struck out almost about 2 batters an inning. because he could just deal heat and throw it past people, and nobody could touch him.
Okay,
So,
brother. I just want to. We have a lot more topics to get to. I hate to cut you off. First of all, call us in at 516-387-0120. 516-387-0120. Just a reminder, brother. The show Revelations, hosted by Steve K, every Monday, that's today, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. He plays a great mix of rock and roll, has a lot of themes in his show, and he does a really laid-back show. I highly recommend the show. That's Revelations, Mondays today, 5 p.m. And don't forget about the Radio Rumble. Justin Greenberg does, I don't know how to describe the show. It's a lot of different music, but he also has like movie reviews and then really weird trivia that he talks about. But it all mixes in like, a great stew, brother. And I know you love the stew. That's the Radio Rumble every Saturday, 12 noon to 2 p.m. And then our friend Big Ed coming up in about 17 minutes with Good Gold, playing the songs that radio stations have forgotten about, but not Big Ed. So keep it tuned here at WHPC after our show from the press box. Okay, brother, a couple of things. First of all, happy Mother's Day to everyone yesterday. We unfortunately did not get to see our mother because we've been trying to stay the distance thing. But, I FaceTimed her with our sister Suzanne. You called her too. She hates my beard. But I vowed not to shave it until
it's a little out of control, brother.
Until we get back into our studio, and then maybe we'll make a major deal out of it. We'll get News 12 down there or something. That might help.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. Also, brother, the last week, SNY showed all 5 games from the 1969 World Series. Incredible. Tom Seaver pitches 10 innings.
Incredible. You meant amazing, brother.
Amazing. It was incredible, too. But, you see Tom Seaver going into the 10th inning. It's like, wow. He wouldn't pitch more than 6 today.
Oh, my God. Why do you keep hammering this dead horse?
Well, let me continue. And then I totally forgot. Jerry Kuzman had a no-hitter for the first 6 innings of Game 2. And that was.
I don't know how you forgot that, brother. We talked about that with Wayne Coffey when he was on the show a few months ago.
But when you actually watch it, you forget. It's like, they don't have. One thing about the games in the past, and they didn't include it. They don't have that box in the upper right-hand corner to remind you every second of what's going on. So the
technical term for that, brother, is the score bug.
Actually, it's called a Fox box because they're the ones who invented it.
No, that's when it's on Fox. That's what it's called.
Well, originally it was called the
technical term. People in the business, in the industry, call it a score bug.
Oh, okay.
So there's some knowledge. I'm dropping some knowledge on you.
Also, this week, MSG aired Game 7 of the 1970 Game 7 of the NBA Championship, Knicks versus the Lakers.
Famously known as the Willis Reed game.
It is, but you know what? Walt Clyde Frazier will tell you it was the Walt Clyde Frazier game.
And Walt Clyde Frazier would be right.
He was 36 points, 19 assists, I think 7 steals.
Can you imagine anybody putting up numbers like that? 36 points and 19 assists.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
That's incredible, man. I mean, that means he was involved with 37.
Well, you can't say you don't know how many field goals he had, but he was involved.
Oh, that's true.
He was involved with I would say probably more than half of the field goals the Knicks had in the game.
Yeah, he was.
Which is staggering.
It's one of his great games ever, and because Willis Reed literally limps, and gets the first 2 baskets,
makes 2 jumpers.
Yeah, and it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, thank you, and I would like to see SNY. There was a great article yesterday by Ken Davidoff in the Post about Dwight Gooden's 1985 season. He went 24-4. SNY should show all those wins for 1985 because it was such a magical year for Met fans where literally you'd run home to watch Dwight Gooden pitch. It was just that incredible. So I would like that to see. Well, whether they do it or not, I don't know, but I would like to see that happen. Also, brother,
Dwight Gooden was a right-handed Brian Taylor. That's
true.
how good Brian Taylor was.
Yeah, and one more thing, brother. And it's a very quick mention, then we'll get back to some other things here.
Yes.
The XFL, they declared bankruptcy or went out of business after all this started.
Yeah.
But now I'm reading that they're trying to get investors. And they're trying, I guess, maybe to sell the teams individually, which was a plan I guess they were going to do down the road because all the teams are owned by the league.
Right.
And looking at their numbers, their TV ratings were pretty good. They were getting about 20,000 fans a game, and the football was actually not bad. So
it was better than it was the first time around. I'll give them that.
Yeah, it was. And I know you covered the Hitmen when they were playing at Giants Stadium
back in the day. Had to hose myself off after interviewing Vince McMahon.
Yeah, there was a clip that I was watching Real Sports, and they were playing some clips, and they showed the clip where Vince McMahon tried to intimidate. I forgot who the interviewer was, in his own juiced out way, maybe, because God knows what Vince McMahon was on then. If he was on anything, of course, I don't know.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So it could be that the XFL maybe stays around. It's an individual company. It's not part of the WWE, even though the money came from when McMahon sold stock, his WWE stock. So the XFL actually might be around next season with actual owners, but we'll see. I just saw that the other day. I'm like, I thought it was over, but now it seems like they're trying to save it.
No, anyway, I think what happened with the XFL, just real quick, is
sure.
I think they filed for bankruptcy just as a business decision, and
I agree.
And so they wouldn't have to take as big a loss as they obviously were going to.
Right.
It's just a business decision. I think that the plan is to try to have teams next year and to get this thing back, but and the other thing is the league's commissioner or president or whoever, Oliver Luck, Andrew Luck's father, is suing McMahon for like $2 million because he didn't get paid, and McMahon is claiming that because the league went bankrupt that he's not getting paid, and Luck is saying he had some sort of like personal services contract or had some kind of guarantee that he was going to get his full salary. So that's going to go to court. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, I think we'll see. I don't think we've heard the last of the XFL.
No, I don't either. I think you're right. And one thing that this happened this week, the NFL announced their schedule. Pretty bravely. At this point in the coronavirus mess we're in right now.
Yes.
But I actually thought that they announced schedules much earlier. I was under the impression that maybe I'm thinking of something else. But the Jets and the Giants did not get, they were horrible last year. You expected to get an easy schedule or a better schedule. Not the Jets and the Giants. They got a horrible schedule, brother. Tell us about it.
Well, they both teams got some of the worst schedules in the NFL, which, you look at the records from last year and, the Giants were 4-12 and the Jets were 7-9, 6-10. I forget what they were. 7-9, I think.
Right.
And those teams should not be playing the hardest schedules in the league. And I'm pretty sure if I heard correctly, the Giants were second and the Jets were third in terms of difficulty of schedule. Now, the Jets, we'll start with them. They opened the season on the road against the Buffalo Bills, and that's on September 13th. So, yes, the NFL still is planning on starting the season on time. And that includes exhibition games. I saw that they're obviously in August for exhibition games. So the NFL, the NFL is maintaining a very, very optimistic stance here. By the way, Vegas already has the Jets as a 6.5-point underdog to the Bills, if you want.
Okay.
But after that is the San Francisco 49ers. That's the home opener for the Jets. And then they go on the road to face the Indianapolis Colts, who by the way, are led by linebacker Darius Leonard.
Yes.
Later in the season, the Jets have a pretty winnable 3-game stretch where they face the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Los Angeles Chargers. That starts on October 1st. And then later on past that, they will play the Miami Dolphins in back-to-back games, although there will be a bye week in between them. But the Jets finish the season with the Las Vegas Raiders, the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, the Cleveland Browns, and the New England Patriots. Now, you could maybe say that the Browns are the easy game in there, but I don't know. I'm expecting the Browns to be a lot better than they were this year than they were last year. So there's if the Jets are looking to make a playoff drive, I'm not sure who they're making it against.
Yeah, good
Seahawks.
point.
Seahawks, very good team. Rams, I think, are going to have a bounce-back season even without Todd Gurley. Patriots, who knows what we're going to see out of them. But, there's a couple of teams. Obviously, the Rams and the Patriots are kind of unknowns. But I think the Raiders are going to be, not a great team, but a good team. We'll see where it goes. But I'll tell you what, you look at this schedule, and I think 8-8 would be a successful season for the Jets. It's a tough, there's not a lot of easy games there except for those three. How
do they? I know, there's certain obviously division teams play each other twice. Right. I know for a fact. I think the Jets and the Giants play every 4 years. Is it?
I think that's
or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, because it's all a matter of crossovers, and it's kind of like interleague play with Major League Baseball. How
right.
The Yankees will play the National League East one year, and then they'll play the National League Central the year after that, and then the National League West the year. So for them, it's every 3 years. With football, I'm not sure how they cycle it because there's 6 divisions, or actually no, there's more.
Right.
I think there's 8. Yeah, there's 8 divisions because there's 4 teams per division.
Right.
So, I assume they kind of cycle it the same way, but I'm not 100% sure of what the formula is and how they do it. So it just seems like they should be able to do something so that 2 of the worst teams in football from last season don't wind up with 2 of the toughest schedules in the league.
Right. Well, brother, I just want to mention we're running out of time, so I wanted to cut you off there.
Yes.
A couple of things. First of all, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, did their first no-fan fight thing that they had. The shows they did.
Yeah, fight card, yes.
Yeah, fight card. So there is, a precedent now set that this can be done. Now, I know the WWE has been doing things down in Florida, and somehow it's considered important business down there.
Essential, yes, because the governor's an idiot business down there.
Of course,
Governor DeSantis, what a moron he is.
Vince McMahon's wife is part of the Trump administration, so
right. So, gee, what a shocker that is.
Yeah,
I did want to point out, brother, with that UFC fight, they actually had to cancel one of the bouts because one of the fighters tested positive for coronavirus.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
that was in a pre-show screening that they did for all the fighters. So, even when they're being careful, it just shows you how unpredictable this thing is.
That's something that could happen anywhere and probably will. Yes. So, also the Jets assigned Frank Gore.
Frank Gore.
Yeah,
he is one of the top. I forget where he is on the all-time rushing list, but he is very quietly creeping up. He's like in the top 5 all time in rushing in the NFL.
Wow.
And he started his career with the 49ers way back when. The good thing about Frank Gore is he's durable. He doesn't really get hurt. He's not going to get you 1,500 yards. But if Le'Veon Bell gets hurt, Frank Gore's a great guy to have around. He'll get you 60, 70 yards a game and give you a running game.
Eli Manning's announced that he's doing absolutely nothing this year as he sits and enjoys his retirement, probably hangs out with his family and his kids.
Yeah, let me just talk real quick about the Giants schedule, brother. We didn't get to the Giants
3 minutes, 2 minutes, brother. All right, 2 minutes.
Fine. All right, let me talk about it.
Hurry.
The Giants will open their season on Monday Night Football at MetLife Stadium. I don't even know why we're being subjected to that. That's ridiculous.
Okay, well, you got to have them in a game every so often.
The next week is at Chicago with the Bears. Then it's home against the 49ers. Week 4 and 5 are the Rams and the Cowboys, both on the road. It is very possible that the Giants could open the season at best 1-4. The Monday night game is against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a loss. The Giants will face Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a Thursday night nationally televised game on November 2nd. Aside from 2 games against the Redskins, who are still terrible, and a November 29th game at Cincinnati, there are very few wins in the schedule. And like we talked about with the Jets before, and a lot of the same teams. The Giants wrap up the season with the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. Okay. The Cardinals is a maybe win, and the Browns is a maybe win, but they're not beating the Cowboys, they're not beating the Ravens, and they're not beating the Seahawks. So I don't know. By the end of the season, I think Joe Judge might be wishing he stayed in New England. Okay,
and we should say I got a couple other things, but I'm going to go with the last one here. The last episode of The Last Dance aired on ESPN. And
it wasn't the last episode. It's episode 9. There's one more left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. The second to last episode.
Yes.
And Scottie Pippen, instead of saying, you know what, I should have went in that time when they didn't want to pass me the ball, or I was supposed to pass the ball off instead of taking the shot. He says, yeah, I would do the same thing.
My jaw hit the floor when I heard him say that last night. I couldn't believe it. It's something that has tarnished his legacy, and it is one of the things that Scottie Pippen is known for, to refuse to go back in the game. And this was against the Knicks when Tony Kukoc hit a last-second three-pointer to give the Bulls the win over the Knicks in a playoff game. But Pippen said, I'm not going. If you're not drawing the play up from me, I'm not going in. Bill Cartwright was screaming at him after the game, and he was so emotional he started crying because he told Pippen, he goes, you got to earn our trust back. He goes, this I can't. He said it multiple times. I can't believe you quit on us like that.
Yep. So I mean, he had his chance to say, hey, I was wrong, and he didn't. And that's
he said he would do it again. I couldn't believe it.
That's why they don't think of Pippen, like me. I don't think Pippen is a great player because of that. Even though he won all those championships and he was a very, very good player, don't get me wrong, but it shows we maybe had no guts. Anyway, brother, we have to get out of here. Brother, Tim Leonard, you're at Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
You've been listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. We thank Sean Novat for keeping this all on the air. Coming up next is The Good Gold Show with Big Ed Newlands. Take care and see you next Monday.